Yeah. And I think having that dialogue with your partner is so important. It can be kind of scary, but
Mhm.
hopefully this is someone that you have that emotional intimacy with as well, right? And the trust factor, and say, hey, I had this happen to my body, because they may not really understand what happened. Right. So I
Right.
had this happen to my body, and here's some of the things that I'm feeling and what I experienced. And maybe even have them, like, with you, kind of guide them with their fingers. So starting
Mhm.
off with their finger inserting, and that gives them confidence too.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into this episode of Mom Talks with Krista. I hope you're having a great week so far. We got another exciting episode for you today. I have Jeanice Mitchell here from my Pelvic Floor Muscles. And wow, we had an awesome interview. We got a lot of questions in the group about sex postpartum. So we talked all about prepping for sex postpartum. I know there's a lot of fear around it, or not sure if your body is ready for it again. So she shares all of her tips, and she's just amazing. So I cannot wait for you guys to check out this episode. And of course, stick around to the very end for our mom tales of the week. And this is a good one. So without further ado, here's my interview. I just can't wait to talk to you. So just before we get started, can you just tell everyone that's listening who you are, what you do, and we'll kind of go from there.
So I'm Jeanice Mitchell. I'm a physical therapist. I graduated in 95. And then after I had my first baby in 99, I became a specialist in pelvic health because of my own personal dysfunctions that I experienced. And, at that time, so I didn't get any information about how to resume sex postpartum, or about pelvic organ prolapse, or about that you might have leaking after baby, and things that happen with your body. So I became a specialist there. And so I've been seeing patients in my private practice in Central Texas since that time. And then in 2018, I started my PFM, which is a nonprofit pelvic health awareness initiative. And so using that same information that I've been giving to people one-on-one, and trying to share it with people that may never be able to access pelvic PT, or that may never heard of it. So increasing awareness.
Awesome. I love that. And you answer so many questions on your social media that I feel like a lot of women either were grown up like embarrassed to ask about, or were just never told. So I think it's an amazing platform you have.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be able to share this information.
So one of the biggest questions I see in the Facebook group is about sex postpartum. And so how can women, all right, first of all, when can women start to have sex again postpartum? I know, we'll see people post in the group that like they started earlier, and some are like, it's been 6 months and I still can't even think about it. So what is your kind of like advice and take on that?
I know that I'm going to say this, that it's individual and it varies from person to person. So I think understanding what happened with your anatomy first, and working with your provider. So there's some people that at that 6-week postpartum check, they're going to be given the clearance. So a lot of people at that point are going to say, okay, you can begin insertion again, vaginal insertion. But there's going to be some people that may have had significant injuries that aren't ready at that time, or even if they were given the clearance, they may not feel ready at that time. So just understanding that varies. 6 weeks is a general timeline. I would also like to interject this, because when we say sex, most of the time we're thinking about insertion vaginally, right?
Mhm.
But there's a lot of other things that can be done with the body before you even get to that point. For example, I have some models here that we're going to share today.
Okay.
So if I think people are listening audio and video, so if
Yes.
you're listening audio, you may want to go back and check out the video part of it, because there'll be some things missed. But
Mhm.
here's the vulva. This is the vaginal opening, and then this is the clitoris. Okay, and so the clitoris is a very important organ for female orgasm and for female sexual satisfaction. And so you can begin clitoral stimulation and doing things externally way before that 6 weeks. The word of caution that I would have there is sometimes, it's rare, but sometimes when that baby comes out, if you had a vaginal delivery, occasionally you can tear upwards towards the urethra where urine exits, or even up towards the clitoris. So you want to, if you did tear up that direction, you'd want to make sure that you're cleared to begin movement of that area and, stretching of that area, because, clitoral stimulation will involve some touching and some friction and so forth. So just understanding it varies, and you don't have to wait for vaginal insertion to begin some types of either self-stimulation or intimacy with your partner.
Okay, awesome. And so if someone's like, I don't feel ready, but I want to get there soon, what are some ways? I know you talked about, without vaginal insertion, but what are some other ways they can kind of get them ready or prepped? Even talking with partner, how does that kind of all come together?
So number one, I think looking at your vulva is really important. So understanding your anatomy. A lot of times, people have tearing. Okay, so perineal tearing. This is the vaginal opening, and then here's the anus, and this is called the perineal body. So looking at that structure and identifying, did you have a tear? Does the tear, how far does the tear go? So kind of just becoming familiar with how your body looks. And so number one, it's looking. Understanding what your body went through. So did you have a tear? Talking to your birth provider about it. There's also something called an episiotomy where they cut you. And then there's also abdominal births or cesarean deliveries, which can also impact pelvic floor and return to sex postpartum. So understanding and then really connecting with your body, connecting with your pelvic floor muscles. So here's another model here. And this is the pubic bone in the front, and then you have the tailbone in the back. And here's the vaginal opening, and then this is the anus. All of these muscles are pelvic floor muscles. So a lot of times when we think about the pelvic floor, we think about one little Kegel muscle, but you actually, depending on how you count, you have up to 17 pelvic floor muscles that do different things. And so depending on what type of birth you had and what type of injury you had, different structures are going to be involved. Let's say you had a scar, whether it be down this way or up this way, you're going to want, once that scar is healed, to begin scar mobilization. It, like if you had a scar on your knee, if you just leave that scar alone and you're not moving it, you're not massaging it, chances are it's going to get tighter, and the tissue underneath is also going to be restricted. And so what's underneath the scar? You have all these beautiful pelvic floor muscles here. And so scar tissue mobilization. And then we think a lot about the pelvic floor muscles. So you want the pelvic floor muscles to do the right thing at the right time. And there's kind of two spectrums here. So first off, let's pretend like this is a vaginal canal. Okay. So this, you would insert something into the vaginal canal for penetrative vaginal sex. The pelvic floor muscles wrap around the vaginal canal. And so they provide tone, they provide sensation, but they should also be able to lengthen and have that flexibility and coordination so that with insertion, they're not clamping down like this. They're relaxing so that you can insert something. Because if they're so tight and so clenched up, it's going to be difficult or impossible and very painful to try to insert something. On the flip side, I know I'm going a mile a minute too, because I have so many things I want to share. So just, jump in, interrupt me if you need to.
No worries.
Okay. On the flip side, we have vaginal laxity. Okay. So yes, this vaginal canal stretches, and depending on the size of your baby, the baby's head and your tissue and your preparation, that will all impact. So other people, instead of having pain, they may have vaginal laxity. So where they feel loose, they don't feel that good sensation when they insert something. And so that's where we want, instead of those muscles to be really stretched out and weak, we want to improve the tone, improve the strength. So when you have something that's inserting, it feels good to your partner, it feels good to you to have better tone, and that can improve satisfaction for both.
Awesome. And
Yes.
so,
Mhm.
yeah. So how do you, like improve that, whether it's like constricting the muscles a little bit more or loosening them up and relaxing them a little bit more?
Yes. So a good pelvic floor muscle training program is important for both, whether you're having pain or vaginal laxity, or, there can even be a combination. A pelvic physical therapist, I would say, is the gold standard to be able to assess you in person. Put their hands on you, test your muscles, see how everything's working. And so if that's an option for you, I would say go to mypfm.com, and there's a little link that says find a PT.
Mhm.
Click on that link, and we have 4 databases that you can search to find a therapist near you. Now, that's not going to be an option for some people for whatever reason, or some people may just want to kind of DIY it, right?
Mhm.
So practicing strengthening, practicing releasing, practicing endurance training. We have a lot of resources on YouTube. And then I also have something called Pelvic Flicks.com. It's like Netflix for the pelvic floor. And so we have a lot of fun videos on there to connect with your pelvic floor and to help prepare you for sex.
Okay, so let's say someone's kind of going through the motions and kind of get ready, but how can they tell their body's actually ready? Or is that one of the things you won't actually be able to know until you're in the midst and be like, oh, that doesn't feel right? Or,
Yeah,
like how do
yeah.
you kind of know?
I know that's part of where connecting in advance is really important. So I would recommend that everyone look at their vulva, that you touch your vulva. So you're actually using that finger. So on the outside first, so you're doing external. So how does that feel? Is it very painful? Does it feel restricted? If it does, then I would spend more time. And actually, let me just say all of this. None of this is medical advice. And it doesn't replace evaluation by a qualified healthcare provider. These are tips to increase awareness.
Right.
So starting externally, working on that, this is called perineal massage. So massaging superficially, massaging deeper into those structures, and then using your finger and inserting your finger vaginally. Okay. So when you insert your finger vaginally, how does that feel?
Mhm.
Is it easy? Does it feel painful? Does it feel restricted? And then once you are inserting that finger vaginally, if you can see here, kind of pressing on different areas and kind of stretching. So you have your pelvic floor muscles under there. And how does that feel? Is it painful? Is it restricted? Does it feel loose? Does it feel easy? And so your finger is one of the most powerful tools that you have at your disposal to really see if your body is ready for, insertion. And then I think it's also important to understand that you don't go from just 0 to 60, right? So foreplay and lubrication and stretching in advance and communication and environment, all of those things play a huge factor in your body's response at the time, right? But these are some things that you can kind of do in advance to kind of check your body's awareness. And that can be very empowering. So let's say you can insert your finger vaginally and you can press on those different positions and it feels pretty good. Then you might even take 2 or 3 fingers in there and press. And, that might not be quite the size of a penis, but, or an object, whatever, you're inserting, but it might be close. And so then that's empowering, right? Like, hey, I can insert this and that feels fine. I'm not having any issues. So great. Then, move on to the next stage.
Awesome. I love that you kind of talk about baby steps and like kind of just making that progress. Because I think so many women in like our Facebook group talk about almost feeling like shame about it. Like my husband's ready to have sex again, but I'm not. And like, they think they have to just dive right back in. I
Yeah.
think it's so important what you're saying about kind of like tiptoeing, kind of check your body out, see what you feel comfortable with and what your body's ready for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think having that dialogue with your partner is so important. It can be kind of scary, but
Mhm.
hopefully this is someone that you have that emotional intimacy with as well, right? And the trust factor, and say, hey, I had this happen to my body, because they may not really understand what happened, right? So I
Right.
had this happen to my body, and here's some of the things that I'm feeling and what I experienced, and maybe even have them, like, with you, kind of guide them with their fingers. So starting off with their finger inserting, and that gives them confidence too, because they don't want to hurt you. Yes, they want this to happen, but most people aren't going to want to hurt their partner. So that also may relieve some of their anxiety or nervousness as well.
Awesome. So the other side of it that I hear from a lot of women is their libido not being where it was before having kids, whether there's so many different reasons and, all that. But so what are some ways to get libido back up, whether they want to, but then they're like, nah, I don't really feel like it.
I know. Look, if I could just say one thing and it was a magic pill, I'd be a millionaire.
Right.
So I think that emotional connection, and that talking about it, is huge. Okay. So having that emotional connection with your partner. There's a really good account on Instagram called Love After Baby. And so she gives a lot of great tips about how to connect on an emotional level. And so it's not just a physical act, right? There's so many emotions that happen. So emotional connection, environment. So how good is your libido going to be when you have children screaming and there's chaos all around, right? So you're going to be much more inclined and have better chances at success if you have the environment set to your liking. Like a vacation away. Vacation sex is usually so much better than at home sex, right? So environments, sleep, and nutrition. I don't think that you can undervalue those. So think about, most people are giving every ounce of themselves throughout all the day. They're trying to do everything. And oftentimes our own health is put on the back burner. So making sure, if you can, get at least 7 or 8 hours of sleep. And maybe it's not all in one stretch, but think about over a 24-hour period. Baby's taking a nap. Hey, let me get 30 minutes in here. Yeah, the dishes need to be done. There's always going to be laundry. There's always going to be stuff to pick up, right? That's a never-ending process. So putting yourself as a priority, making sure that you're eating well, exercise as well. So going on a walk, doing some exercise at home, that's also really good for your body, and it's good for your hormones. All right. And then confidence. So like we said, because I think the fear can affect libido. So if you've done some of these confidence building activities that we talked about, then I think that can also impact your success and your desire.
Totally. And that totally makes sense, because if you're going to do something that makes you feel good, more confident, you're going to be more likely to want to be more intimate, because, with all those mental blocks or other things, distractions going around, like, how can you just, you got to definitely separate it.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we had Shayna from Love After Baby on the show.
Oh, you did? That's
about
awesome.
a year ago. She was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe you link that one in the notes here, so people can, find it easily, because I think she's amazing. It has so many helpful tips that you can apply to your everyday life.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. It's so much more beyond the physical. I think a lot of times it's mental too. And just in general, that's amazing. And so I know you kind of just talked about this, with in regards to libido, but how can women postpartum have more confidence when it comes to postpartum sex?
So self-exploration, I think that is just a key. Looking at yourself, connecting with yourself. We really didn't talk about this, but a lot of times when people contract their pelvic floor muscles, they're actually doing the opposite. So when you contract, like, grab that mirror and look at your anus. And when you contract, does that anus pull up and in? And then when you relax, it should kind of soften. So you need to have both of those phases. You need contraction contraction and you need relaxation. And then once you know that you're doing that well, then increasing the repetitions, increasing endurance, making it harder with different positions. So many of the times I think people focus on just Kegels, where you really need to focus on lengthening and relaxing too. Like if you think about strengthening your bicep, you're not just going to be here, right? Like we want to contract and relax fully. So self-exploration, time, and practice. If you have pain with sex, or you have an experience that is not maybe it was a 3 on a scale of 0 to 10, right? You're not doomed forever. So it's not like, oh, I had this one thing happen, it's going to be that way forever. There's so many people out here and tools out here that we can help to figure out, okay, what's going on with you? What are you experiencing? And then let's develop an action plan to help address those things. So I know it can kind of be discouraging, like, oh, man, it feels like this is going to be this way forever, but you're not doomed forever. So understand time and practice and tools. And then again, talking with your partner, communication, expectations. So just because you reach that 6 weeks, in fact, I think building that in even during pregnancy, like, hey, yeah, a lot of people are ready at 6 weeks and you may be cleared at 6 weeks, but I may not be ready. So just expect that it might be longer, but there's still things we can do to be intimate. And so I also think that that's an important piece, is connecting with your partner and having their expectations be in line with yours.
Awesome. All amazing tips. I think that communication definitely is key, and setting that expectation that just because I hit 6 weeks doesn't mean I'm going to be immediately ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And on the other end of that, this is kind of like off the cuff, but I was wondering, so, they say wait at least 6 weeks. What is what is the reason for waiting 6 weeks? Is it harmful to start sooner? Because I see a lot of women talk in the group that they're ready sooner, or their husband's ready sooner, or whatever it may be. So what's kind of the other side of it?
I think the important thing is that your body is healed. Okay, so let's say that you had a tear, making sure that that tear is healed fully, and that your body is physically ready. And so in the US, we have that's our standard, is that you have a 6-week postpartum checkup. But there's people that may be physically healed by 2 weeks, and it's their body. I'm not here to say that you can be cleared at 2 weeks. I think you should always have that conversation with your birth provider, and hopefully you have their contact information, like saying, hey, I feel great, my scar looks great, I'm able to put a finger in, and like having that conversation. And I think a second piece to that is contraception, because that 6-week mark is also a big contraception discussion. And so understanding that if there's a penis coming in, there's a possibility for pregnancy to happen unless you have some contraception in place, and looking at all those different options and how that may impact the experience.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Wow. Well, this was like packed with so much information. I think it's so amazing because we've never talked about this on the show before. So when I found your account, I was like, we gotta have her on. This is awesome. And
I do want to share. I emailed you guys. I have a handout. It's a PDF. So it's 10 tips for postpartum painful sex. And so it goes over kind of step by step and gives a bit more detail than I, shared here. So I think you can link it or maybe share it with your audience, but I think that would be helpful as well.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely link it. We'll put it in the show notes as well, so anyone can access it, and we'll put all your contact as well. So I always like to end these with, I call them fun thinking questions, and just get a little take from each person we interview. So if you could have a billboard made today where you could share one tip with moms everywhere, what would you have it say?
I love this question so much. And I don't know if all the marketing gurus out there would completely resonate this, but what I would say is healthy pelvic floor muscles make sex better. Okay. So remembering your pelvic floor, and they can impact painful sex, but if you're having vaginal laxity or difficulty with orgasms, they can also help make that better too.
I love it. Perfect. And of course, where can everyone find you, follow you, get your helpful information, tips, and so much more?
Yes. Yes. So if you are concerned about painful sex, I have a course. It's called Sex After Baby. It's about a 2-hour self-paced course. You can either get it a la carte, or I have a site we talked about, pelvicflix.com. And so it's on there. It's called Sex After Baby. And for $9.99 a month, it's, included access to all the content there, and it's a free 14-day trial. So I would encourage you to check that out. We're on YouTube and Instagram, My Pelvic Floor Muscles. And if you're interested in exercising with me, like doing live pelvic floor focused exercises for postpartum people, every Monday and Wednesday at noon on Zoom, I'm leading live pelvic floor focused workouts. And so we have a fun time. And again, you can access that through Pelvic Flix.
Awesome. So many great resources. And as I said before, too, we'll link them all in the show
Thanks.
notes so everyone can find them. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on. It was so nice meeting you. And I just love the information you share. It's great.
Thanks, Krista. Take care, everybody.
All right, guys, it's time for this week's Mom Tales. And this week we asked you guys on social media, what is your favorite memory with your kids? And we got so many amazing responses. This was a fun one because I think it really allows you to look back, appreciate the good times, and see what memories are going to be those memories that you're going to hold on to for a long, long time. So this was a fun one to read. Okay, number 1 is Nav. One of my favorite memories is our vacation to Disney World and seeing my kids smile and freak out to their favorite characters. They were having so much fun and making memories. It was the best time ever. I know my kids might be too small to remember it, but it's memories I'll hold on to forever. I love that. People are always like, why do you do that when your kids are so small? But it's true. It's something that you're going to look back on. You'll have the pictures, you'll have videos, and they'll love to see it too when they're older. I always remember going to Disney World when I was a kid, and it was the best time. Like, it's literally where magic happens. Okay, number 2, Rachel. When my children were 1 and 7, I got it in my head that having them help me make cookies from scratch would be a fun memory to make. It did not go well, and 3 of us ended up on the floor crying. Oh no, while covered head to toe in flour. It was overwhelming at the time, but looking back at it now, it makes me smile and laugh. I love that at the time, it was a very difficult, overwhelming memory or thought, event, should I say. But now looking back makes you smile and laugh. It's kind of one of those scenes that you see in a movie that, in a movie, when you're watching it, you're like, oh my gosh, I would hate having flour all over the place. But you're able to enjoy it because it looks so fun at the same time. And like you said, it's gonna be one of those memories that you hold on to for a long time. That's cool. Number 3, Nicole. January 2nd, 2019, my son looked at me and said his first word, mama. Oh, I love that you know the exact date. I mean, Nicole, she's one of my moderators. She's the admin of our Facebook group. She's got memory her memory is keen. And so I'm not surprised that she knows the exact date, but that is also something that I'm sure you lock and remember forever. That is so cool. I love that. Okay, number 4, Monet. Waking up to my baby girl sleeping. She opened her eyes and looked at me and smiled so huge, my heart was full for the rest of the day. Oh, it's little moments like that that just turn everything around. And I'm sure you just felt so amazing and at ease in that moment. That's cool. All right, number 5, Tara. My son is 6 months old, and one of my favorite memories is hearing him laugh for the first time around 3 months old. Now he smiles and laughs almost all the time. I hope he keeps his joy throughout his entire life. I love that. It's like his personality was really coming out at 3 months, and that's going to just carry him on. And there is nothing like a baby laugh. Oh my gosh. It is like the most amazing sound, and you can't help but laugh and smile yourself. Number 6, Dominique. My sweet baby girl, 21 months, noticed I was having a bad day. She took my hand and led me to the couch where she made me lay down, brought me her blanket and favorite stuffed animal. She then climbed up on the couch with me and took a nap. It's the little things. That is so sweet. What an empath. Like, she really felt you and was like, girl, I'm going to take care of you. Lay down. You need this. That is so endearing and amazing. I love that. That's an amazing memory. Okay. Number 7, Annie. I don't know if this is my favorite memory, but it's fresh in my mind. I was attempting to take my baby girl's 10-month picture, and she threw up about 3 or 4 times all over me and herself. Oh no. It was everywhere. My 3-year-old sweetheart of a son saw what happened and brought me 1 square of toilet paper to help clean up. Oh my gosh, I love that. I needed that moment of comic relief because there was so much puke, I didn't know where to start. I love that he brought you just 1 square of toilet paper. Like, Mom, I got it. I got it. Just here's the square. I'm going to save the day. We got this. But that is so sweet of him to see you needed help and reach out and help. That reminds me of the time I was helping my sister over at my sister's, playing with my niece, and she had a runny nose, and I think she was maybe like 1.5 years at the time, and my sister was like, go get a tissue, go wipe your nose, and she's like, but don't grab too much, because sometimes, you know, kids can grab the toilet paper and just the whole roll comes off. So she's like, don't grab too much, just grab a little bit. And she comes back with not even a full square. She comes back with like the tiniest little piece, and she's like, her nose, and it was so funny, so cute. I love that. I think that's so sweet that he was trying to help you. Oh, I love that. So many empathetic and sweet, nurturing kids and good memories. These are great. So as you're listening to this today, I want you to think of your favorite memories with your kids and just hope it brings a smile to your face. It's just always a good reminder, you know, when you're in the thick of it or things are a little rough, to just think about those amazing memories and think how you can make more amazing memories like that. And to Rachel's point of her story with the flour all over, when things happen like that, being able to think in your mind at that moment, like, you know what, this kind of sucks right now and I don't want to have to clean this up, but it's going to be an amazing memory. And these kids are going to remember how funny it was to have flour all over the place. So just want to leave you guys with that today. That's all I got for today. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you next week. Hey guys, if you found this or any episode of Mom Talks with Krista helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share it with your friends. We release new videos every single Wednesday, and our new podcast is out every single Thursday. So lots of different ways you can catch us. And of course, if you're not following us on our socials, go ahead and follow us there. We've got tons of new content for you every single day. And finally, if you're watching this and doubting yourself, you're doing a great job. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.